Got all the prop set and everything for our big prop comedy act we're about to do. Welcome to A Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. We're a little over 4 months from the presidential election, and things are not looking great for Donald Trump. He's trailing Joe Biden by double digits in polls by CNN and CNBC. He's even down by 12 points in a Fox News poll. Ooh, you know it hurts more when you get the news from someone you love. The only way it could have been worse is if he found out from the bottom of a chicken bucket. Trump is so far behind that according to The Hill, there is no plausible scenario where Trump would lose the national popular vote by the kind of margin currently projected, yet still eke out an electoral college win. Why would you say that? You idiots! I gotta knock wood. It's aged in oak. Oh, that's good luck. Trump's still stinging from the embarrassment of his sparsely attended rally in Tulsa, so last night he tried to spin the whole thing as a victory. Wow, the Trump rally gives Fox News the largest Saturday night audience in its history. Yes, history. You know what they say, those who fail to spell history are doomed to repoop it. I'm sorry, you were repooping? Isn't it amazing that virtually nobody in the lamestream media is reporting this rather major feat? Great point. In the midst of a global pandemic and massive civil unrest, reporters are totally burying the story of how many people were watching TV. It reminds me of that headline after Pearl Harbor. FDR's speech gets incredible ratings. Also, war. To be fair, Trump is right. A record number of people did tune in to watch him be humiliated in Tulsa. It's the feel-good hit of the summer. But today, Trump is off to another rally, this time in Arizona. Before he left, he screamed into the whirling blades of tonight's episode of Chopper Talk. Now, in addition to the empty seats, the big news from Trump's Tulsa rally is that he said he told health officials to slow down testing so America wouldn't get so many confirmed cases of coronavirus. The White House has since said multiple times that the president was joking. Yeah, he's joking about a global pandemic. It's a snippet from his new stand-up special, Donald Trump's Death Comedy Jam. I really killed. Then I went on stage. This morning, the testing joke came up in the Chop Talk.
I don't kid. Let me just tell you. Let me make it clear.
Oh my God. Your staff does everything they can to pull your news cycle out of the ditch, and then you just floor it in reverse. What's it like to work for this guy? Is what I'll be asking my guest, John Bolton, tonight. Now, like I said, Trump was on his way to Arizona, a state he desperately needs to win, and a Senate seat that is in deep trouble for the Republicans. So he was prepared to play his greatest hit, Ooh-all.
We're going to Arizona. We're celebrating. We have over 200 miles of wall built. It's been incredible. Our numbers on the border, as you know, are at just about a record-breaking low.
Oh, we know. Every day you're in office, millions of Americans turn to each other and say, okay, we've hit a new low. And as he said, Trump is going to Arizona to celebrate building 200 miles of wall, but there's a small problem with that number. It's not the number, because the grand total of new wall, where there was no wall before, is 3 miles. So 3 miles in a little more than 3 years. It's 2,000 miles of border to cover, so he just needs to be president for 2,000 more years. Watch me drink water with one robot tentacle. Lock up Hillary's brain in a jar. Here's the tentacle. Trump's wall isn't just short, it's bad. Because according to reports, people are sawing through and climbing over Trump's border wall. Well, he's got no one to blame but himself. Immigrants are just taking his advice.
If there's a concrete wall in front of you, go through it, go over it, go around it, but get to the other side of that wall.
Shouldn't be hard. It's only 3 miles long. One problem with Trump's visit is Arizona has tallied almost 55,000 cases of COVID-19 and has doubled the number of cases in the last 15 days. Yikes. The University of Phoenix might have to start offering some of its courses online. Now, Arizona's not alone. Other states have reopened way too early, and predictably, half of U.S. states have seen a coronavirus surge. And one of the biggest reasons it's spreading in those states is that coronavirus cases among young people are on the rise. In fact, several cases were linked to fraternity rush parties in Oxford, Mississippi. And now, to ensure proper hygiene, university officials have posted signs at all fraternities saying, "Please Purell the vodka bottle before making the pledges boof." In the Midwest, 4 cases of COVID-19 have been tied to the Cruisin' Chubby's Gentlemen's Club in Wisconsin Dells. Not Cruisin' Chubby's. I'd expect that at a less reputable place like the Meandering Tent Pole or Casual Stiffies or maybe Floppy's House of Half Boners. But Cruisin' Chubby's, it's a gentleman's club. It's right there in the name. They watch those ladies dance through a monocle. Now, completely off subject, when I saw this news story, I could not resist Googling Cruisin' Chubby's on someone else's computer, and I found this helpful Yelp review. "Ranch dressing was the best I've had. I go every other day." That is the first question everybody asks before going to a strip club. How's the salad bar? It's great. Just don't touch the sneeze guard. In addition to his empty rally, Trump's also been sensitive about criticism he got for slow walking a ramp and drinking two-handed. Sources say the president has become so obsessed with showing how mentally fit he is that he started reminding people about the cognitive screening test that he took in 2018. Proving you're fine now by pointing to something you did 2 years ago is not reassuring. "Guys, I'm all good to drive. Seriously, remember how 2 years ago when I wasn't drunk?" You're cute. Come here. I want to tell you something. Hi. Here's an example of the kind of test Trump has been bragging about, okay? A little simple, recognizing test right there. It involves advanced cognitive challenges like drawing a clock, knowing the date and month, and naming different animals. And I'm sure Trump aced it. "Okay, here we go. That dog's gonna eat the unicorn's butt. Watch out, humpy horse, you're next. Okay, I did it. Where's my chicken tenders? This restaurant sucks. There's not even a treasure map on the back." At a cabinet meeting in early June, Trump brought up the exam and waxed on about how he dazzled the proctors with his stellar performance. How can you dazzle a proctor on a test like that? "Incredible, Mr. President. You knew the date and the month. You graduated summa cum laude." Sources say that recently Trump has been especially braggy about the part of the 2018 test where he was able to repeat 5 words in order. "That's right. I said all 5 words. Then the doctor goes, 'No, you have to repeat the words I gave you.' And I said, 'My words are better. Cookie, hat, wall, boobs, cookie.' You get double cookie with mine, plus I got the boobs in there." So Trump is feeling insecure about how people perceive his mental acuity heading into the election, which might be why he has also suggested challenging Joe Biden to take the same test. I can't wait to see those two duke it out on the debate Zoom. "Okay, so this black and white animal is clearly a stripy horse." "No, wait, Jack, that's a pinstripe donkey." "Stripy horse. Pinstripe donkey." "Can we take a break? I'm starving for some cookie boobs." My glasses go back on. Tuck the hair back in. All good. Today's election day in New York, Mississippi, Virginia, North Carolina, and Kentucky, but one of the symptoms of coronavirus is major election headache. So the obvious solution is mail-in ballots. Naturally, Trump is against that, tweeting, "Rigged 2020 election. Millions of mail-in ballots will be printed by foreign countries and others. It will be the scandal of our times." Wait a second, how can you have foreign countries and others? What others are there on the planet? Oh, okay. Get ready for Senator Eustace P. Moleman. The president also used Twitter to continue his feud with my guest tonight, former national security advisor and self-aware push broom, John Bolton. Bolton's promoting his scathing new book about the Trump administration, The Room Where It Happened. Trump went after Bolton this morning on the Fox and the Friends.
What he did do is he took classified information and he published it during a presidency. It's not, it's one thing to write a book after, during. And I believe that he's a criminal. And I believe, frankly, he should go to jail for that.
Okay, but don't arrest John Bolton until after I do my interview with him. I don't want a repeat of Paul McCartney. Turns out his band was on the run.
Bang, bang, Maxwell Silver Slammer!
With the ongoing protests for racial justice, we've seen one area of reform, statues. Americans have begun re-examining exactly who we're honoring on that pedestal that the teens are vaping around. In New York City, the Museum of Natural History has announced the statue of Teddy Roosevelt will be removed because, as the mayor put it, it explicitly depicts black and indigenous people as subjugated and racially inferior. I've got to agree. If you've never seen the statue in question, here it is. Oh yeah, that's not good. Looks like the world's most racist birthday boy pony ride. Look, history is what it is, and Teddy Roosevelt did a lot of good things, including inviting Booker T. Washington to the White House. But maybe kids can learn about people like Roosevelt in a more nuanced way. Instead, they spend too much time in middle school learning the difference between stalagmites and stalactites. And very few of American children live in caves. Please, no letters, Senator Molman. Some people are taking statue removing into their own hands. This weekend in D.C., protesters pulled down a statue of Confederate General Albert Pike and then set it on fire. In Raleigh, North Carolina, protesters pulled down a statue of a Confederate soldier. And in California, people brought down a statue of the composer of the Star-Spangled Banner, Francis Scott Key. Now, one person who doesn't seem to mind this particular de-statuing is an actual descendant of Key who tweeted this weekend, as a descendant of Francis Scott Key, let me just say, this is fine. It's fine because it turns out Francis Scott Key owned slaves, persecuted abolitionists, and wrote a completely unsingable song. I mean, we need a new national anthem that everyone can sing. 1, 2, 3, Sweet Carolina, ba, 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 and all the other 50 states and Guam and Puerto Rico. Play ball. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. This trend of destatuing clearly has Trump upset because he took to one of his Fox and Friends to try to undermine the message of the protesters.
And here's the other problem I have. A lot of these people that want it down don't even know what they're taking down. I watch them on television, and I see what's happening, and they're ripping down things. They have no idea what they're ripping down.
Look, reasonable people can argue whether this is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but I think they know exactly what they're doing. If they were just tearing down statues, they'd also be pulling down the nation's Bob's Big Boys. His only crime is wearing pants up to his nipples. And if I just made you think about Big Boy's nipples, you're welcome. We've got a great show for you tonight. I'll be talking to the author of The Room Where It Happened, former National Security Advisor, John Bolton. Stick around.